All right, it's 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this meeting of the Edgefield County Council to order, please, on June the 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Thank everybody for being out tonight. We'll start with the invocation led by Pastor Lorenzo Williams, the Science Hill Missionary Baptist Church pastor, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask our pastor to come up here. If everybody will please stand.
Amen. Let us pray. Most holy and righteous Father, we thank you tonight for giving us the opportunity to be here. And Lord, we ask you tonight as we tend to your business, to your people, Lord God, we ask that you give us a heart to make right decisions, make wise decisions concerning the community. And Lord God, we ask that you lead and guide us in all that we do in these most precious moments in these last and evil days. Amen.
Amen. Please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Before we get to the approval of the agenda, I'll just remind everybody there is an executive session at the end. Then adjournment will follow that. And Council, I'm going to ask if we can move new business number 1, which is our resolution to the Trenton Community Development Association, from new business 1 to right after approval of the minutes, just so those folks don't have to hang around. So is there a motion to a motion to amend the agenda as I've so stated?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Cooper makes a motion and Mr. Talbert seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, the approval of the minutes. There's only one, the April 5 regular meeting minutes. Are there any questions or comments from council on those minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Talbert makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And Ms. Ireland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. Next is where we move new business number 1, and this is for the consideration of approval of resolution number 21-22-1149. And for those in the audience, I would like to ask you to please bear with me so I can read this resolution that we're going to present tonight. This is a resolution recognizing the Trenton Community Development Association for its 50th year of sponsoring the Ridge Peach Festival. Whereas Edgefield County Council wishes to recognize those persons and organizations that are dedicated to providing services to the citizens of Edgefield County, and whereas the Trenton Community Development Association, a nonprofit organization, has been the sponsor of the annual Ridge Peach Festival since 1972, and whereas the Ridge Peach Festival features a parade and more than 100 arts and crafts vendors, food, peach ice cream and cobbler, a softball tournament, and live entertainment, and whereas the local festival has grown and flourished since it was restarted and this year is celebrating its 50th year, and whereas the Ridge Peach Festival continues to bring new visitors to our county while providing a wholesome and needed attraction for our citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Edgefield County Council in session duly assembled this 7th day of June 2022 that the Trenton Development Community Association be honored for their service to the citizens of Edgefield County, adopted this 7th day of June 2022. Is there a motion from council to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Ireland makes the motion and Mr. Talbert seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. And we're going to present this to you. So I know we have lots of members from the association, so I'll ask council if we'll all come down here. We'll have our picture made with these fine folks and present this resolution. So I'll ask the mayor to come up here with me and the rest of the committee. Come up, please. Whoever's here for the committee. Maybe you can line up behind here. I'll ask council to stand up here, please. And I'll ask if y'all can line up behind this. Make your way down here. Very good. There's the mayor. couple more seconds, Sherry, let everybody get settled back down. All right, we'll come back to order here, and we want Sherry to please tell us a few things about the festival.
Chairman Campbell, we certainly appreciate this great honor and being recognized. Thank you. I tried to do that, I couldn't do it. Thank you very much. It has been a long time, 50 years of celebrating our peach industry here in Edgefield County. And the people we have here who came to be recognized as well, these are all people who have worked very hard to make this happen. You know, as you know from your own service in Johnston and all of you with your service, it takes a lot of hands to make something like this just a reality, and a lot of man hours. And so we appreciate everybody and all the volunteers who come out and help us as well. All right, this year is our 50th year. We invite everyone to come out. We have on Friday, WJBF is coming for your hometown. They will be broadcasting live from the park beginning at 4:30, so please do make plans to come out and join us. And then on Saturday, beginning at 9 o'clock and until 4 o'clock, we will have live music. We'll have a parade at 10:30. We have fresh peaches for sale, cobbler. We have ice cream. We have Helen Carpenter's famous recipes from her peach preserves that are being brought back. We have games for kids. We have lots of arts and crafts vendors. We have food trucks. What else? What am I missing? We have Ike Carpenter will be there displaying his great talents in carving. Anything else I'm missing? That's a maybe. What's that? Yes. So we invite you all to come out and listen. If you're not busy on the 18th, we'll take people to help us scoop ice cream and dip cobbler. So if you've got about an hour to give, we'll take some volunteers. But we do hope you'll all come out and be a part of this. Trenton is a sweet little community, and I think a little hidden jewels in the part of our county. So we hope you can all come out, celebrate the peach industry, and celebrate the town of Trenton and the county of Edgefield. So thank you very much for this great honor. We appreciate it and hope to see you there.
All right, thank you for all of you being here tonight. Thank you for those words, Sherry, and we wish you much luck in the festival. With that, council, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the guest speaker, and of course, we don't have one tonight. So we move on to item 5, which is the comments from the public. I'll remind the public that these are items that are on the agenda that you're speaking on. There is a 5-minute limit to all speakers, and the clerk will keep the time, and at 4 minutes, she will interrupt you and tell you it's at 4 minutes, and at 5 minutes, she will call time. So with that, I'll ask the clerk, Aretha, can I get the sign-up sheet for the first public comment period, please? Thank you. All right, so we have one person. So Lorenzo Williams had signed up, but you're on the agenda already, so you didn't have to. So good for you. But thank you for signing up. So you'll get your chance to speak in a minute. So really, we have nobody then signed up for the public comment period. Who did?
Did you want to sign up?
Yeah, you need to come up.
You need to come up here so everybody can hear you. and second, first, please state your name and who you're with, please.
My name is Gail Smith, and I'm with the Department of
Microphone.
Mental Health.
I need for you to get the microphone.
Yeah.
And I did not, I got confused. I just signed my name in attendance.
Okay, so you're commenting on something related to the budget, I assume?
Related to the budget and the donation made by the county council, and I just wanted to say on behalf of the Department of Mental Health, the Beckman Center for Mental Health Services, and our local Edgefield Mental Health Clinic, that we just appreciate everything that you all do, and we thank you very much. And I left a little folder for everybody up there to see some of our newer services. There is one service that may not be entered because we're still in the process. It's a evidence-based practice for ages 0 to 5. And that's one of my other hats. I'm supervising that program, and we're still on the track. It's an 18-month program for training, and also for training purposes, we have cases that we are following and monitoring. Any questions? I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for coming.
thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Like I said, Mr. Williams will be at the first, under what, new business here in a minute, or old business, I'm sorry, in a minute. So with that, council, I'll close the public comment section for the first public comment period and move to reports. Any questions or comments on the reports? Okay, hearing none, we move to the consent agenda. So council, do either of these need to be removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Talbot makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Ireland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. Now we're up to old business, and this is the consideration of approval of request by Gloria Bynum to paint a mural on the county property. And we've been trying to get together since March, and for various scheduling reasons, I know she couldn't be here. But I know we have both of you, Gloria and Lorenzo tonight, so please come to the podium and make your presentation.
Gloria Bynum, and we are here tonight to give you the final proposal for the wall that we would like to get enhanced as soon as possible. So if you would look over it.
I didn't realize I made this many copies.
Thank you, sir.
This is for, I guess, the public if they want to see what we're talking about.
Do you want me to read this or you want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. If you want me to.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I'm going to read the project manager contact information. And that just describes the materials that will be used and the person that will be doing the work. And for the objective, the ultimate goal for this project is to honor Dave the Potter and bring attractiveness to the space to increase the traffic of the local and tourism, increase appreciation of the arts and artists in the Johnston, Edgefield, and Trenton area. And if you see the pictures of the pottery, we do plan to use some of Justin's pottery to maybe put plants in to enhance the interest of the building a little bit later. So I will get back with you on that information once this is finalized with Justin.
Well, let me just say, last time we were here, you all asked us to do a presentation on proposal. So this is what I came up with as the artist. A sample of the artwork that would go on the wall. If you notice on the sheets on the back, I have an example of the artwork, Dave the Potter, which would go on the main wall. And on the smaller wall, a variety of pottery. I have the diagram and measurements, and also a blank copy of the wall and a superimposed picture of the artwork once it goes on. So if you have any questions for me as the artist, that's what.
Well, let me start then, ask a couple of questions, and they would be for you, Pastor. So the artwork on something like this, because it's on a concrete wall, what about any prep work that has to be done on the wall so that the paint adheres, lasts longer than, because it's not a canvas, obviously, it's a harder surface. So do you have to do anything? I was just glancing at your list of costs, and I don't know if I saw anything related to prepping the walls, but is there anything you have to do?
As far as prepping the wall, I went out and looked, checked the wall out. As far as the condition of the wall, it seems to be sound and everything. As far as the concrete, basically, from what I can tell, I would only have to prime it, put a good primer on it, and once the mural is done, put a good seal on it. Other than that, if I'm not mistaken, I think that wall's been in that condition a good while. So I'm thinking if any water damage, anything had intended to damage that wall, it would have already been done. So I'm thinking whoever did the wall, they did a pretty good job of cementing it. So other than that, good primer to keep it on the wall due to the fact that the wall has been cemented real good. The paint with a good primer, it should stay on. I'm thinking just depends on the life of the paint. And normally mural paint or out exterior paint, it does real good. At least 5 to 10 years as far as staying on the wall. I just feel it won't do any peeling, but if it does, then I just don't think it will even peel due to the condition of the wall. Now, if you want to get a professional look at the structure as far as the outside of the wall, you could probably do that, but as far as painting murals before, I just don't think it's going to be a problem on coming off. And if it does, well, I stay here in the county. You can always contact me to redo it or do whatever we need to do to fix it without any cost from me. As long as I have the time to do it.
And one other question for me, at least right now, and, again, you have to pardon this question, I'm not an artist. The border around this looks pretty intricate. Is the border also painted, or is that something else?
That would be painted. And as far as time, I have the time period on there. I'm out for the summer. I teach school, so we're out for the summer. I have some other, maybe 1 or 2 other projects I'm working on. Summer camp with the Edgefield County school system, a couple of weeks. So, but I'm thinking hopefully by the end of July, I should have it done. But I'm thinking to do the biggest part of it those first couple of weeks in July.
Questions from council?
I just have a comment. Dean already asked a question I had about the border, but I think it's phenomenal what you're proposing. It really adds some vibrancy to that area and tells part of our story. So I thank you for bringing this to us.
Did any of you get to go and look at some of the murals on the wall on Riceboro Road?
I've seen your work on Wrightsboro Road.
That should speak a lot for his work.
Then he also painted at Douglas Elementary.
Ma'am?
You also painted some pictures at Douglas Elementary.
Yes, some of the mural work.
Yeah, love it.
And so this is gonna cost a little over, not quite $3,000 $2,600 basically to do this, and you're expecting it to last 5 to 10 years, correct?
Well, depending on wear and tear of the paint, but normally, if it's an exterior paint, you normally get that. And I'll say about 10 years, it may be faded, but sometimes it just depends on the sunlight on the paint. But normally, if it's exterior paint, yes, you're gonna have some fading, but I'm more so concerned about it peeling. And like I said, from my investigation of the wall, I'm thinking good primer should hold the paint on there. Because as far as the condition of the wall, whoever did the wall seemed to have done a good prepping on it.
So the work that you did do in Augusta on those walls, did you have to prime those, or did?
No, those walls were already prepped. And from what I can see, preparation of the wall, good cement, and prep from a good masonry. That's why those murals are still up. Now, the paints that we used were mural paints from a company called Nova, which I had in here. But I'm just saying, due to the pandemic, if we can get the paints and they're delayed, well, I mean, I'll let you know that. But if it seems like it's going to be an overwhelming of time, Lowe's and these other places that sell exterior paint, it's just as good. It's just that the colors don't last as long.
Do you need to put like a sealant over it?
Yes.
You would
yes,
do
we
that?
will,
Okay.
seal it with a exterior seal.
I'll ask the administrator, I think, notice the first time we've seen it, I'm assuming it's probably the first time you've seen it. Is there anything that you see that we need to discuss tonight with this?
The only comment I would have is the wall is in great shape. It's a little over 10 years old. And the only question that I would ask of you would be that, would it be best if we pressure wash that wall before you go ahead and, in other words, maybe a week or so beforehand, pressure wash it so any dirt or any other things that need to come off that wall? Or is it better not to pressure wash it?
I don't think it would hurt.
Would it help?
It would help, because basically, it shouldn't do any damage to the
Right.
concrete.
No, it should not.
But to get that dirt out of there and the primer to,
So that's the only thing I would say, Mr. Chairman. If council decides to go ahead, then we'd ask our staff to go ahead and pressure wash the wall to prepare it, and probably try to do it within a few days before. We want it to dry thoroughly, especially is this an oil-based paint or water?
it's, any of the paint that I use will be a water-based
Okay.
latex
Okay.
paint. And even if it's not dry, the water always helps to absorb.
Correct.
paint. So either or.
Okay, so we could go ahead and pressure wash it just a few days beforehand.
Would we enter into a contract with you to do this? Is that how that would work?
Well, for this small amount, I mean, we could if you would like us
I
to.
was just wondering how this works.
Council goes ahead and approves this tonight, we'll just take it out of one of the budgetary items and
So if it does need touching up between here and 10 years, I don't know, you said you would come back, would you charge us to do that, or would you just come back and we just pay for the paint?
Now,
Maybe, not to put you on the
my
spot.
thing was, if it's damaged or anything like that, I wouldn't.
Right,
But say like if it lasts 5 or 10 years and it starts to fade and you want to touch up, yes, I would have to charge for that.
okay,
If
but
it's-
But as far as any natural.
yeah, if it's
damage,
defective workmanship, that's one thing, but again, just natural
wear and tear,
causes.
right, gotcha.
I have a question. So in your experience, when you do these type of murals and they last 5 to 10 years, at the end of the lifespan, do you just paint over it and start from scratch regularly? Or do you actually go in and touch it up?
You can either or, it just depends on if the paint is peeling or it's just fading.
Right.
So it just depends. Understood.
Yeah, I've got a,
Then you may want to do something different.
I don't know, I've got a little bit of experience, because in Johnston, there's the big mural on the wall that periodically, every 10 or so years, the artist has to come back, and they pay him, the town pays him to touch it up, because it fades, and he may take off some of the peel paint and repaint it, and some of that, so that does happen.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay, before I ask council any questions, is there anything else you two want to tell us about this?
I think the artwork's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, I think the artwork is spot on.
It's amazing, and that border, have fun with that. Hey,
Well, we just want to get it done.
it's really well done.
Enhance that area because it is the worst looking place other than the hotels that have in Edgefield.
Miss Gloria, I can remember you've been coming up here about that for a long time, because when I was sitting out there, I remember you were coming up here about that. So you've been after this for a while, I know.
And we definitely appreciate y'all's service.
All right, are there any other questions or comments from council? Okay. If not, council, do you want to make a motion to accept this proposal tonight?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Dr. Kenyon makes a motion to accept this proposal as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
And Mr. Talbot seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. Thank y'all for doing this.
Thank you.
And I'll ask you both, you might want to get with the administrator to work out the timing. No, just any time in the next couple of weeks.
Gloria knows how to get a hold of me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was number one under old business. Old business number two, consideration of approval of second reading of an ordinance, ordinance 21-22-783, providing for a lease agreement between Edgefield County and Edgefield Aviation, Inc. We discussed this a couple times, including, of course, last month, but I'll ask the administrator if there's anything new or different we need to know about this one.
No, we have the present FBO administrator here, and we have the new proposed FBO administrator. We had a question concerning insurance, and I believe we have that worked out, and so there are no further changes. And we're excited to have Tyler and his family here. I assume that's your family, cheering you on. So there are no additional additions otherwise.
Okay, council, any questions or comments on this ordinance? Hearing none, is there a motion to give second reading to ordinance number 21-22-783?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Mr. Cooper makes a motion, Ms. Ireland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. So one more reading, and you got it. Takes 3 readings. All right, so next, council and old business number 3, consideration of approval of third reading of ordinance number 21-22-781, an ordinance providing for the FY 22-23 general operating budget and establishing ancillary budgets for E911 administration, economic development, solid waste disposal, victims' bill of rights, emergency medical services, road maintenance, tri-county solicitor, assistant solicitor, school resource officers 1 through 8, event security, sheriff discretionary funds, clerk of court discretionary funds, pretrial intervention, and criminal domestic violence. I know we have at least one thing on the agenda that the administrator needs to talk us through with the EMA department, and there may be others, so I'll turn to him and ask him to take us through what we need to know for the final reading of the budget.
As you all know, in the original budget, we had eliminated the administrative assistant to the EMA director, feeling that the amount of work that is needed here in the county could be given to another existing employee. After talking to Susie further about this, the EMA director, but also talking to several of the fire chiefs, one of the things that we've been lacking in this county is trying to help out the fire departments, especially some of the smaller ones. We had a gentleman who did a tremendous job, worked for Edgefield County, but passed away a couple of years ago. And he helped with the grant writing for not only his local fire department, but several others. And so we talked to Susie about getting the assistant back, but required might be too strong of a word, but asking her to work with the various fire departments to obtain grants to assist them to get equipment, for training, for anything else that might be necessary. So the agreement was to go ahead and to put that back in the budget, which 50% would be paid for through a grant that we get on an annual basis, but also using the individual to assist the fire departments locally, which I think would be a tremendous help for them long-term and for this county long-term and citizens. So that's the only change we have to the budget. It adds about $8,000 to the budget. So no other change. We did get something in today. It's not in the budget. It really, it's kind of a wash. The good news is well, let me give you the bad news. There's always the bad news and the good news. The bad news is our property and liability insurance is going up. That's going up everywhere. You get into an accident with a car, it used to be they would repair it. Now you have to replace the whole fender, or you have to replace the whole bumper. And everything that used to cost $1,000 now costs $5,000. And so the losses throughout the state have gone up, and so ours went up around $60,000. Our workers' comp, if you recall, last year we were number 8. We're still number 8, but we went from a modifier of 0.92 down to 0.72. So that's about a 17% savings. So we're doing tremendous with our workers' compensation. That's the injuries to the employees. And credit goes to Leanne, who heads that up, but credit goes really to all the employees. And so the two kind of equalize themselves out. I added up today, we had $262,000 in the budget for workers' compensation. We're only going to have to pay $173,000 next year. So that's about a $90,000 savings. Because the budget and the meeting was tonight, I didn't make the changes. I don't think it's a critical thing, but we did add in that $8,000 for that one employee.
All right. First, Counselor, any questions about adding this EMA part-time person back for the purposes that were discussed? If not, then let's go ahead and make an amendment. So first, I need a motion to approve the budget.
So moved.
Mr. Cooper makes a motion. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Talbert seconds. Now we're in discussion. And under discussion, I'd like to see if there's can we make an amendment to add the part-time person in for the $8,000 that the administrator has laid out for us?
I'll make that amendment.
Okay. Ms. Ireland makes the amendment. Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Mr. Cooper seconds. Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we're back to discussion. Any other discussion on the budget? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion? We already have a motion. All those in favor of approving ordinance number 21-22-781, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Budget passes unanimously. Next, council, is new business, and we've already done number 1 under new business, so we'll move to number 2. Consideration of approval of the first reading of ordinance number 21-22-784, revising the purchasing code 2-370 local bid preference. So I'll ask the administrator if he can walk us through this new ordinance.
If you could turn to the exhibit, that's under Exhibit 4. This is something new, and it came about recently when we had our stormwater bids that came in, and we had 2 bids. One was from a company out of the Columbia area. The other one was with TriStar, which is a local construction company. We would have preferred giving the bid to someone locally. They pay taxes, they employ locally. But their bid was about $10,000 lower than the people in Columbia. Our bid preference says we can allow up to 5%, but only for bids up to $10,000. So it really capped it. And what this will provide is to allow that 5% difference for bids up to $200,000. So let me give you an example. If you don't mind if I pick on you. If Scott bids $200,000 and he is out of Columbia and I bid $190,000 and I bid $189,900. No, it's just the opposite way.
We know what you mean.
Thank you. You know what I'm saying. If Scott bids $190,000, $100, and I bid $200,000, we'd take $10,000 off my bid, and mine therefore would be $190,000 compared to $190,000, $100, and the local person would get the bid. Now, if it goes over $200,000, then it just stays at that $10,000. It's something to allow preference to local bidders. Also within the ordinance allows for minority bidders. Now, in looking at the federal statutes and looking at state statutes that have this within a number of their agreements, minority could be a veteran, it could be a woman minority business, it could be certain races, it could be Native Americans. And so we would, going by the federal guidelines they have for disadvantaged business enterprise is the way they describe it. And they also would then be able to. I know that it was sometime last year, a number of us met with Mr. Settles, who wanted to locate here in Edgefield County. Mr. Settles is an African-American, and again, that same premise would hold. If there is a bid that was close, it would give some advantage to the minority, woman, veteran, disadvantaged in some way, and we'd have a list of those on hand, so if it came up, we could then go ahead and provide the exception to them. Now, saying all that sounds wonderful, maybe, depends on when you want to look at it. We don't have that many bids that are that close. But when we do get them in the future, I think this would go ahead and allow some advantage to those smaller companies which tend to be in a rural county like Edgefield. So we're throwing this out. This is the first time you've seen this. We're certainly open to changes. We look throughout the state. So I made a comparison with other counties. A number of counties have a list of minority-owned businesses, but there's only a couple of counties that give a differential, like we're talking about with the dollar. And I looked for other ways of how can we go ahead and make this work. I know that Doc and I talked about it several different times, and right now we feel like this is a good start. And we're certainly open to suggestions on what changes you might want to consider if you want to go forward and to provide this advantage for those companies. Hopefully that explained it partially.
Council, any questions for the administrator or questions in general or comments on this ordinance?
My comment would be, I like the idea of trying to hire locally because it supports our economy. They're going to be, like you said, employing local people, pouring back into our tax base. But I also think that if we use local people, they care more about their work, and we can track them down. Just say, go find them.
Well,
That's just my comment, so.
I guess my only comment would be, I think this is a good way to involve and open the door more for people to get involved in bidding and winning bids that maybe couldn't before, particularly locally. And this is not unusual, as the administrator said. Other counties do it. The towns in Edgefield County do it. They have a preference just like this, not just like this, but a way to get local bidders to have a little bit easier path versus, being on equal footing sometimes. So it's worked there, it's working everywhere it's done, and I think it's a good idea. I'd like to see us do this. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, then is there a motion to give first reading to ordinance number 21-22-784?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Talbot makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
All right, Ms. Ireland seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. Next, council, is new business number 3, consideration of approval of the first reading of ordinance number 21-22-785, authorizing Edgefield County, South Carolina to enter into a base lease and conveyance agreement and installment purchase and use agreement between the county and Edgefield County Public Facilities Corporation, approving the form and terms of a trust agreement between the Edgefield County Public Facilities Corporation and Regions Bank as trustee in connection with the issuance of not exceeding $32 million principal amount of certain installment purchase revenue bonds, Edgefield County project, in one or more series, consenting to the issuance of such installment purchase revenue bonds, approving the form of a preliminary official statement with respect to such installment purchase revenue bonds, providing an exemption for the county's procurement code, delegating authority to the chair of the county council and the interim county administrator, or either of them acting alone, to approve and determine certain matters and other matters relating thereto. So, long title, but I know the administrator is going to walk us through this one.
Yeah, and first of all, let me apologize on behalf of Burr Foreman. Franny Heiser was planning on coming today. She is sick and was not able to come at the last minute. We have been working with the LEC nonprofit board that you all had set up. So you gave us 5 different names of individuals throughout the county. We have now gone ahead and they agreed as to who would be the president, who would be the secretary, and who would be the vice chair. The secretary is not like you would think of as a secretary that is writing lots of minutes and everything. We do everything for them, essentially. But the secretary has to sign a plethora of paperwork to get this done. And so that portion has been started. The status of the law enforcement center, the plans are about 75% complete. They're going to be finishing up those plans in the next couple of months, along with the bid specifications, and we should be out for bids in August. Once we receive the bids, we will know, is it 30 million, is it 35, is it 40 million, how much is it going to cost? There's a couple alternatives that we have with this. And then it comes back to County Council for your approval of that contractor to do this work. Once we have an idea as to what the price is, then they could go to the bond market. We don't know exactly how much money they will have to borrow. We do know that we were going to be getting some funds from the state through the plutonium settlement funds that are available. So our representatives and our senators have been working to provide some funds. It's probably going to be over 8 million. It could be as high as 18 million. So if the project came in at 38 million, which is what we're estimating right now, and we got 8 million, then we would need 30 million to borrow. Not knowing exactly what our final number would be, we said let's go to 32 million maximum. If we had got 18 million from the plutonium settlement and it was a $38 million project, then we'd only need 20 million. So this gives us flexibility up to 32 million for this nonprofit to borrow from a bank. We, in turn, by approving this tonight, and then subsequently at the second reading and third reading, are stating to the nonprofit that we, as county council, guarantee that we would be paying back this loan on a monthly or quarterly basis. So that's in essence what you're approving. It's by title only because we didn't know when the final couple of readings were going to be and a couple other changes that they have to make at the last moment. But you'll have the full ordinance before you at the next meeting, and Andrew will have a chance to go ahead and review that entire ordinance. But this firm, Burr Foreman, that you hired, has done this with numerous small governmental units, anywhere from cities to counties throughout the state, to allow the county to borrow money for large projects like this. So again, tonight, all you're doing is stating that you will be paying back this money to the corporation. As far as the money is concerned, in 2020, the citizens approved a referendum that provided around $10.5 million through a 1-cent sales tax to help pay for the law enforcement center. The great news is we're getting in twice what we thought we'd get in. So instead of getting in $10 million over an 8-year period of time, we're going to get our $10 million in over about a 4-year period of time. What that means is that instead of not having another referendum till maybe 26 or 28, we'll be having a referendum in 2024. And we know that that referendum question won't be 10 million, it's going to be more like 22 or 23 million. In other words, it'll take only 1 to 2 referendums for us to pay for that law enforcement center. If we get 18 million from the settlement, the next referendum, not all the money will have to go to the law enforcement center, and council and the community at large will have an opportunity to decide how that money should be then spent. So we have some great opportunities in the future, and later I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a couple of things that the Planning Commission is working on that we may be able to use that funding in the future for. But again, this is for the law enforcement center. We named this group the Edgefield County Public Facility Corporation, so that if in the future there was any other large project that the county would like to undertake, this nonprofit set up not just for the law enforcement center, but for any other public facility. So if you wanted to put in a big regional park with a gym facility in Edgefield County, and it's cost $20 million in a few years, you could do that with this corporation. And it's already set up, and all that planning will take place. So it's a great step. It's a bold step by the county, and I just really congratulate you for going forward with this. And I know the sheriff has been at all these meetings, Doc's been at these meetings, and we got a great group of citizens that are working on this.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Mr. Cooper?
So we started collecting revenues from the capital project sales tax a little over a year ago. Do we know how much we've collected to date?
Yes, we do.
Would you be willing to share
Sure,
that
I'd
with
be much. We had anticipated about $250,000 every quarter. The smallest we've gotten in so far is about $525,000. The last check came in over $600,000. So we got about $1.7 million, and we should be getting $550 to $600 plus every quarter from this point thereafter.
My only comment would be thanks to the citizens who voted for that. Made it possible.
Other questions or comments from council? Okay. Hearing none, then is there, excuse me, is there a motion to give first reading to ordinance number 21-22-785?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cooper makes a motion. Is there a second? Dr. Kenyon seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. All right, that ends new business, council. We'll go to comments from the public. Do we have any people sign up for that, Aretha? Thank you. I'll remind everyone again that this is for things that are not on the agenda. There's a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker. And at the 4-minute point, the clerk will sound that there's 4 minutes passed, and then at the 5 minutes, she will tell us that 5 minutes has passed. So with that, I'll take them in the order that you signed in. First, we're going to have Carol Bryan, Civic League and E OED.
I represent the Old Edgefield District Genealogical Society. I've been a part of them ever since we came, well, actually before we came to Edgefield. And I know you're aware there have been some very unpleasant things happening. And I'm just here to thank the volunteers, all these folks that have given on their time. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
I don't have any questions. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. Next, we have Justin Guy. You can forego your time, if that's what you'd like to do. Okay, thank you. And Tanya Guy. All right. And that's all the folks that signed up then for the comment period. So, council, I will close that and move to the administrator's report.
As I mentioned earlier, last month we had our first initial meeting on radio communication. Councilman Talbert and Cooper were present representing council. It was a very good meeting. We had about 25 individuals there. They overwhelmingly, after hearing presentations from 3 different vendors, asked that we consider the Motorola communication system. The sheriff, myself, Doc, and Garrett Lynn, our EMS director, have met with them twice now, and we're ready to make a presentation to the larger group again. You all will be getting, we met today, so you haven't heard this, but on July 19th, that's a Tuesday, we'll be meeting with a large group again to go over 2 options. Both options will give us superior coverage compared to what we have today. We have so many areas that you just can't hear. Well, you could hear, but all it is I mean, you can't understand what dispatch is saying and vice versa. So this is going to go ahead and clear up a lot of that issues. We're talking about adding 2 more towers. That's doubling the amount we have. We're talking about a whole new radio system, and it's not going to be inexpensive. But I could just tell you that it's absolutely critically needed. I can't think of something more critically needed in the county. So that'll be going to this committee. Based on the discussion at the committee, I hope that in August we will bring you a solution that we'll be asking you to give us the authority to go out for bids. We would then go ahead and come back with those bids probably in September and hopefully get your approval to spend the money to put the towers in, put in the new radio system. Takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get the radios and about a year to go ahead and get all the antennas and other equipment for the towers. So it's a long lead process, and they asked me today, is there any reason to kind of hurry this along? I said, yes, because every month is critical to the communication here in this county. So we're going to try to get this to you as quickly as possible, but we have been moving forward, and I'm really excited that we feel we came up with a solution that I think everybody will be happy with. And if we can make all the fire departments happy, that's a miracle in itself. Animal shelter, I had mentioned to you once before that Aiken County has written us a letter telling us that they would like us out of their shelter by the end of the year. They realize that it's going to take longer than that to go ahead and prepare a new shelter. We have prepared preliminary plans. We've given those to the SPCA in Aiken County, who we've worked with in the past. They've made some suggested changes. We asked Todd Brown, who's on our planning commission, to review those plans. The price is going to be under $400,000 according to at least what he's saying with today's prices. We probably are going to have to make a few more modifications, but we will be finalizing those plans soon. And again, hopefully being able to go out to bids and bring those back to you to build a new shelter. Once we get the plans completed, my next job will be going to Saluda County. At one time, they had agreed to work with us on it. They do not have an animal control officer. They do zero animal control in their entire county. So for them, this is more than just providing a shelter. It's now all of a sudden they would be providing an additional service. So I don't know what changes were made. I'm the one that went and discussed this with their council back in 2015, and they agreed and they signed a memorandum of agreement at that time. But that's 7 years ago, and there's been a lot of changes since that time. But that's the direction that we're moving in, and we'll keep you updated on that as we go forward. The Planning Commission has been meeting diligently for the last, I want to say, 5 months, looking at, now that we have the regulations in place, where do we go from here? And so we asked them to look at Chapter 9, which at the back of the comprehensive plan, there's what we call the priority investment. What are the priorities that we want to make within this county, within the communities, towards the future of Edgefield County? They looked at that, and they have come up with 3 elements that they're going to be working on. The highest priority is to come up with a plan for a regional park somewhere near the 3 towns. So I don't know, and again, we're not saying it's going to be between Edgefield and Johnston or Trenton or any of that, but somewhere more centrally located within the county. Possibly with a gym, possibly not, but it'll be a major complex that we would have. As most of you know, we do not own the land that Bettis Park is on. I can't imagine the people that own the land would say, fine, we'll take it over, because that would be a lot of maintenance, a lot of work. I'm sure we'll be able to keep that agreement. At some point, we'll need to extend it. But right now, we don't own the land, and it'd be great to be able to have a park and own the land. But we also need to, maybe that park over there is going to be more oriented in the future towards football, and the other ones might be baseball and soccer, pickleball, or whatever else we may need in the future. But they're going to be working on that. They're going to come up with more details on that and look into where should the county go so that we can actually say the Planning Commission is a planning body, not just a regulatory body that approves regulations. The second thing they're going to look at is overlays. We have some overlay districts. It was in the original LMO, and it was one of the controversial areas. But again, it's something that we'll be looking at. I'm not going to call them highway overlays. They may be more regional. They may be highway. They may be a combination. But to look at where do we want to go, especially I think of like US 25. I mean, there's developers want to go here, there, everywhere. Sweetwater Road, especially on the southern end of it. Martintown Road, we got some controversy with North Augusta and what they're doing there. So that's going to be another area of concentration. The third area of concentration is, I'll just describe it as a conservation subdivision. Conservation subdivision would be taking, let's say it's 100 acres, and concentrating all the development in 25 acres and leaving the other 75 acres for conservation, taking into account the natural resources that might be in there. It may be a forest, might be streams, might be some other attributes that they have. And therefore, if it's concentrated in one area, in that 25 acres, we might allow higher density than we would in some other areas. But again, we'll be looking at that as a third element. After the election, I would like council and the planning commission to get together and have a joint meeting so that you could jointly get together and say, where do we as these two bodies want to go? Where do we want Edgefield County to be in a few years, 5 years, 10 years? Otherwise, you could just get uncontrolled growth. And we need to make sure that we're both in sync as to what council is thinking versus what the planning commission is thinking. And so it wouldn't be a long meeting, but it'll be sitting down for about an hour, coming up with a list of 10 or 12 different things, and then prioritizing them so that as we start 2023, these are the 2 or 3 or 4 items that we want the planning commission to be working on. I just think it's critical. We have not used the planning commission, and I'm saying that it's wrong, but I like to see it more as a planning body instead of just listening to subdivisions that come forward and regulating and what we should do, and always trying to catch up instead of having things being thought of beforehand. So they've been working on that, and I'm really excited to see that happening. That's it, unless there's some questions.
Questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Great report. Appreciate all that you're doing. With the Planning Commission, in your discussion of recreation, the finance piece, was there any conversation about partnering with North Augusta at the North Augusta Country Club, which sits inside Edgefield County?
We met with North Augusta about 2 or 3 months ago, and that was one of our discussions, that if that opportunity can present itself, because again, probably 90% of the people in the Meriwether area, or the southern area, Sweetwater, Meriwether, go to North Augusta for their recreation, for youth and other things. One, we don't really have a gym. We have the town of Edgefield for a small number of events in basketball, but the North Augusta gym's open all the time. So most of the citizens in that area gravitate in that direction. But we know that's one area that's growing tremendously. We know there's going to be even more additional growth there in the future, especially with the I-20 corridor going through. And so from some further discussions that are going to have to be made with North Augusta. But their concentration was they felt like something needed to be more towards the central part of the county at this time. But that doesn't mean we can't look at both.
Any other questions for the administrator? Okay, hearing none. Thank you. We'll move, I got into my comments. I just have a couple things I wanted to mention to council and to our citizens too. First, I mentioned in January that I'd like to see us start a local chapter of the South Carolina African American Heritage Commission. I'm going to ask this new organization to be citizen organized and citizen operated, and hopefully with council participation. I plan to send out a press release asking for volunteers to serve, because I believe forming a group like this gives us the best opportunity to preserve our African American heritage in this county and can help communicate that history to residents and visitors. I've spoken with the state organization, and they are willing to help in any way they can. As a matter of fact, they're very excited about this, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, council, I wanted to report to you that I visited last month with many of the elected officials and department heads in our county to better understand their needs and their vision for the future of their offices. I'm also pleased to report that they are all passionate about serving our citizens, and they're constantly looking for ways to improve that service. Now, their work can sometimes feel thankless because many of them see people who are citizens that are maybe, let's say, stressed out at the worst, and most of the time not happy at the best. So I told them that we thank them for their continued work to move Edgefield County forward while working with citizens to provide the best service possible. Finally, I've made 4 more visits with existing industries since our last meeting, and I'm also very grateful to them and the jobs they provide our citizens. But I'm very happy to note that some of them have plans to expand their work in our county, and that's great for them and that's great for us. That means we're doing the right things to keep them here, but we should always look for ways to improve our business environment, like we did tonight, giving first reading to the ordinance that will open the door to more local and minority bidders. So, council, that's all I have. There being no other business, I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session for a legal briefing.
So moved.
Mr. Cooper makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And Ms. Ireland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Give your wife that, did you give your wife that thing? I'm gonna tell her where you spent.
All right, if I can call everybody back to order, please. If I can call everybody back to order, please. We are, County Council has returned from executive session. We are now in open session. No business transpired, no votes were taken in executive session. There being no other business to take up tonight, council, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
And Ms. Ireland makes the motion. Mr. Talbert seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously.